Hello everyone. It's news. Lots and lots of news in the last few hours. I want to start off topping and tailing this NATO thing because Trump, of course, insulted the sacrifices made, and it was sacrifices made by a lot of NATO troops in Afghanistan for the sake of America. I don't even know how many non-American NATO troops died and how many others suffered life-limiting injuries. Whereas Trump's done a bit of a U-turn, but only a partial U-turn. So I'm reading this. This is actually, no, hold on, let's read it on the BBC. It's so new that it's only really just been reported on the BBC recently. So Trump says UK soldiers in Afghanistan amongst greatest warriors of all time. So basically what's happened here is Keir Starmer had spoken to Donald Trump today. So there was a huge backlash, not just in the UK, lots of other NATO countries sent troops there, and they very much fought alongside American troops, and they bled and died. Keir Starmer has rung Trump to say, mate, out of order. So Trump is not apologised as such, because Trump doesn't do apologies, but it's the closest thing you get. So after that conversation, he has basically hailed the bravery of UK soldiers in Afghanistan. Now, that is still insulting an awful lot of other countries. It's an interesting one though, isn't it? It's an interesting one because it sort of doesn't have much value, but Keir Starmer, getting specifically, because Keir Starmer himself is unlikely to say this in public, but his allies will be cajoling people. Starmer's allies will be able to say this outrageous thing that absolutely disgusted everyone in Britain, that everyone had to say was wrong. Even Nigel Farage had to say that he disagreed with Trump on that one. Keir Starmer rings Trump up, says, mate, can you walk that back because that's not on. Trump, after the conversation, says, no, British soldiers, absolutely stalwart. Best amongst, what is it said? Amongst greatest warriors of all time. I mean, like Trump, he doesn't do anything by halves, does he? Everything is either the best ever or the worst ever, isn't it? He can't just go, do you know what? You helped us out. So Starmer gets to claim that he has influence. Now, for me, it's a double-edged sword, or not so much, maybe bittersweet, because on the one hand, given that Trump had said it, you think to yourself, so what benefit has been caused by Trump now walking it back? He's clearly U-turned. He hasn't apologised, but he has U-turned. Is that a benefit to us? I'm not sure that I see the benefit, because in a sense, given that Trump had already said it, it might have been useful for him to have doubled down on it, if anything, and to let more of this country see just what sort of person Donald Trump is. Because the worse Donald Trump comes across, the more people hate Donald Trump in this country, the more they're going to be put off Nigel Farage. And we're already seeing that. I may do a video on this tomorrow, although there's been mad news happening in the last few hours. There's already been a bit of cut through. There's been some focus group polling, specifically targeting women who were, I think it's More in Common that did it, specifically targeting women who voted Labour but were thinking of voting Reform UK. And apparently one massive issue for them is Nigel Farage's closeness to Donald Trump, or his admiration for Donald Trump. They don't like Donald Trump, and they don't want a government that's going to try and copy Donald Trump. So, bittersweet, isn't it? On the one hand, Starmer can get to claim, I am effective on the world stage. On the other hand, it doesn't actually hurt for Donald Trump to piss off the British public, I think. That's me personally. Chris there saying, sorry for the fact he made the original comments, no amount of apologies will make it better. Well, no, they weren't, and he hasn't apologised either. He's just changed his tune. You could almost imagine that what he's effectively saying is that, oh yeah, all those NATO troops they were cowards. They weren't anywhere near the front line. Oh, the British were. Sorry, I didn't mean the British. I didn't mean, because he hasn't, as far as I know from this report, he hasn't actually claimed that NATO troops, in actual fact, did bleed and die on the front lines with Americans, just UK troops. So does that mean every European and leader and Canada? Well, he'll not get anything out of Mark Carney. If Mark Carney rings up and says, dude, mate, we helped you out there, he'll get nothing there because Trump needed a distraction. So his distraction, of course, is tariffs. 100% tariffs on Canada. Well, he's threatening it. He hasn't said it's going to happen. He reckons 100% tariffs on Canada now. But there we go. Sure that one day Trump's going to tell the world about his war stories very much in the same way as Uncle Albert. Except Uncle Albert actually did go to war. He just wasn't successful. And neither was his crew. So, but Uncle Albert actually was in the military, unlike Donald Trump, who was ordered to join the military, conscription. And he went, rich daddy, can you get me out of this? All right, then. Let's get a doctor to give you bone spurs. Starmer getting some sort of climb down as a man in milk. It is, but again, it's like, I mean, as Chris said there, to the people who are outraged by this and aren't particularly fans of Donald Trump, it doesn't make up for it because no one he hasn't apologised, for a start. He hasn't apologised. No one believes that whatever he is now saying is sincere. Right. And the other thing is, it's like, so who's going to be pleased with this? Who's going to be pleased with it? The Conservatives will be delighted. Reform UK will be delighted, because now that's another thing they can. There's been a mounting number of things over the last couple of weeks that both the Conservatives and Reform UK have had to disagree with Daddy Trump on. Right? They don't like that. So they can cross another one off the list. So now they don't have to disagree with him over Greenland. They don't have to disagree with him over Chagos Islands, because Trump was supportive of that. That'll be interesting if Trump later this week now says he's in favour of the Chagos Islands deal. Because Starmer will have brought that up as well, won't he? He'll have brought that up as well. But my point is that the Reform UK and the Conservatives have had to disagree with him on Chagos Islands, on Greenland, on support from NATO troops, British troops at the very least, in Afghanistan. And now they can cross them all off the list. But what has Starmer got out of it? You know, if we're going to think selfishly, politically, strategically, what has Starmer got out of it? All Trump has said here, it's only helpful to the Conservatives and Reform UK. That's not a win for Starmer, unless he also has managed to get Trump to say, no, the Chagos Islands deal, it's boss, mate. Absolutely brilliant. Sorry, I had a bit of brainworms last week. Great watching Farage cling to Trump as he descends into dementia. Well, I mean, this is a thing, isn't it? His brain, honestly, I'm not an expert, but I see too many experts. And okay, I don't know which ones are the top experts and which ones are not. And of course, if you're going to judge someone's cognitive decline, ideally you'd be able to investigate personally, not do it, via watching footage of him. But you've got plenty of psychiatrists who might all be woke Marxists for all I know, who knows. But they're saying, yeah, he's not going to last. And we're already seeing signs of it. We saw how rapidly Biden declined. He wasn't that top notch when he won the bloody election. And Trump, yeah, I mean, it's... no one served further behind the front line than Donald Trump, about 4,000 miles behind. It was further than that, wasn't he? Where would he have been sent? I don't know. Who was America picking on at the time? I strongly suspect he was more than 4,000 miles away from it now. What surprised me most is the silence from Bush and Obama on Trump's disgusting comments. So I don't actually... Yeah, I've not scoured... I'll take your word for it. I've not scoured... I have noticed a lot of Americans... including former very senior officers in the US military, who have come out and criticised Trump for what he said. Vietnam, was it? Yeah, that was more than 4,000 miles away, wouldn't it? I suppose it depends which way you go. But should we certainly say thousands of miles behind the front lines? Yeah, nowhere near. Many of my family fought wars, even the American Civil War. Yankee dad's side, you've got military history stretching back, haven't you? Trump's insult disrespects all their efforts and sacrifice, totally disgusted. Well, it does, but I mean, again, we expect nothing else from Trump, do we? Donald Trump is insulting when a head of government denigrates the foreign troops who fought alongside them. That is insulting. But Trump has done it to US veterans. Trump has insulted serving US troops as well as veterans. As far as he was concerned, if you get captured, you're a failure. If you get shot, you're a failure. Like he's just insulted. So why would we expect him to not insult, from his point of view, foreign troops? He insults his own troops. So I would love to say God help us, but if there was a God, he's already gone somewhere else. No. For those of us of a religious disposition, we're not supposed to have a nice life. We're supposed to have a testing life. We're supposed to be tested and challenged. And there's nothing more challenging than Donald Trump as the United States president. So we're supposed to rise up. Some people are rising up in America. Minneapolis, I'm afraid to report, if you didn't already know, that ICE have now murdered a second US citizen. I mean, the way it's phrased in the BBC, I don't criticise it because they've got to do it like this. Man dies in Minneapolis after being shot by US immigration agent. Obviously, they can't call it murder. Right? Only a court can say that. But it's murder. I mean, think about the difference here between Iran and America. Now, Trump attacked Iran for killing innocent protesters. What's the difference? It's scale, isn't it? That's the only difference. The scale of the killings in Iran is far worse than in America. But you can characterize the actions of the Iranian regime as Iranian regime killed Iranian citizens to exercise political control. Donald Trump has ordered the federal state in America to kill US citizens, or at least not mind if they kill US citizens, in order to get political control. The difference is only in scale. The Iranian regime killed way more Iranians than Trump has killed Americans so far. He is trying to stoke a violent reaction. They are trying to trigger an insurrection so that he can actually use the Insurrection Act. Someone's worked it out, 10,000 miles. So Trump was 10,000 miles behind their lines there, or 9,000 from New York. I suppose it depends on, I guess it would depend on where his barracks would have been, where he would have carried out his basic training. We don't know that. See the cognitive dissonance in the Telegraph. Let's have a look what the Telegraph are doing today. What have they got? I don't know which one you're referring to. So if I look at the Telegraph at the moment, it's got British soldiers are great and brave. Trump backtracks on Afghanistan slur. So, they're reporting. That's a perfectly good headline. Unless you're referring to something else. I haven't read the article. I haven't looked at the Telegraph for a few days, so I don't know what they're on about. But that seems like a perfectly good headline to me, unless you're referring to something else. What's it? Hold on. You're not unreasonable to wonder about this Burnham matter, more division. What's that in relation to? I think Burnham would have been a better lead from the start. This is a dick move. The Burnham thing. It's not. I don't think it is a dick move. It could be a very bad move. At the end of the day, I don't know Andy Burnham personally. I know he's got an ego, right? Beyond that, I don't. in his head, does he like at the end of the day, in his head, for it to be a genuine move, he only has to believe that Starmer is failing. Well, there's a lot of evidence for that. Politically I mean, again, I keep saying there's so much stuff he's doing in government that I'm more than happy with, and that wouldn't have happened with Andy Burnham. Andy Burnham wouldn't have done some of the stuff that Keir Starmer has done. And he may not have won either. Don't assume. I mean, really, do not assume that Andy Burnham. And also remember, he ran off. He was in Parliament. He was an MP. He couldn't be asked to go through when Jeremy Corbyn became leader. Andy Burnham couldn't be asked to go through what were going to be really bad years for Labour. He couldn't be asked to stick through it, and he pissed off somewhere else for a better gig, and now now that Labour are in a good position, he's come back so that he can be Prime Minister without winning an election. So there is that side of it. But as long as he genuinely believes that he could get Labour back up in the polls, it's not a dick move. He's doing it for genuine reasons. I don't know if he is doing it for genuine reasons or not. Does he just want an easy way to be Prime Minister? Because if you're Prime Minister, even an unelected Prime Minister, I mean, that's the path to fame and riches, that is. Liz Truss, for example, I mean, she's managed to write a couple of books, hasn't she? So, and she was only Prime Minister for like 3 hours. But it is what it is. There's, at the end of the day, it's hugely risky. I mean, I did discuss this yesterday. It's hugely risky. There's lots of things you could say about it. It could go right for Labour. It could go very badly wrong for Labour. If it goes badly wrong, it could be Burnham's fault. If it goes badly wrong, it could be Starmer's fault. If Starmer blocks him, then he takes responsibility for all the chaos that is then subsequently caused. Starmer should not touch this with a barge pole. He should order people on his allies on the NEC should say, if Morgan McSweeney tells you I want it blocking, don't believe him. You just do your jobs, is what should happen. But anyway, what happens if Manchester get a reform mayor? Andy Burnham will have messed up big time. That's what happens. This is why, if I were Keir Starmer, I would stay well out of this, right? Because shit's going to go down. There's a lot of damage going to be done either way. If Starmer blocks him, damage is still going to be done, and he will have done the damage, and he will take the blame for it. It will actually weaken Starmer. Any move to block, it's a bit like, right, when they attacked Wes Streeting, that weakened Starmer. Weakened him. If he now follows Morgan McSweeney's advice and blocks Burnham, that will weaken him further, and he's already pretty weak. He'd be much better off steering out of it, doing nothing, allowing it to happen. As long as Starmer does nothing to block Burnham, then it's all on Burnham. It's all on him. If Labour do not win that mayoral election, that's on him. If, because of trying to win that mayoral election, Labour have to split their resources and as a result do badly in the local elections, which they may do badly anyway. I mean, they're projected to do quite badly in the Welsh and Scottish elections, certainly. But Starmer's allies will be able to claim, actually, that was Burnham's fault because we had to split our attention. Can't McSweeney just F off? I would like to think he's not going to, though, I'm afraid. But it's really one of these things. A lot of damage is going to be done to Labour. Now, in theory, if Burnham does become leader and therefore Prime Minister and Labour win the next election, no one is going to say it was a bad move. But there's like half a dozen things that can easily go wrong. And if any one of them goes wrong, it'll backfire on Burnham. There is an outcome. There is no outcome where Starmer blocks Burnham and Starmer looks stronger. If Starmer thinks that, he's been badly advised. Again, there is no outcome where Starmer blocks it and he emerges stronger, only weaker. But there are outcomes, not necessarily, I mean, there's lots of outcomes possible if he allows it. But there are outcomes that emerge if Starmer doesn't block it, where Burnham comes out weaker and Starmer comes out stronger. Like even as something as simple, because everyone knows that Burnham will be going there to replace Starmer, and Burnham's popular and Starmer's not. Maybe Labour get a boost in the polls. because Burnham won't make his move before the local elections, maybe Labour get a bit of a boost. Maybe Labour do better than expected because people are thinking, oh, it'll be all right with Burnham, right? But that will actually strengthen Starmer because he'll say, well, hang on, we're going up in the polls. No one's going to get rid of a leader if you look like... And Starmer will claim that the reason they've got a boost in the polls is not Burnham, but because of the better economic news that's coming out and the budget that's coming out. Remember, from this April, energy bills go down. You've got that new fund coming out to help people with like emergency issues. Say Starmer's allies are too stupid to see this. Not all of Starmer's allies are stupid. It's just the non-political ones around him who are. Well, they're not stupid either. They're just not good at politics. Could end up with a Reform mayor, Poland Polanski MP, and Burnham on the dole. I think Burnham will be fine. Burnham's not short of a few quid, and he will be able to write another book. No matter what happens. It says, ultimately, the fault of McSweeney, by extension, Starmer for letting it get to this point. So, yes, ultimately, this would not be happening if Starmer had taken politics more seriously. If he'd been, we know Starmer's, really very ruthless on he's been very ruthless on a lot of things, which was all really good. And yet, where he's not at all ruthless is on his own team. He doesn't demand higher standards of his own team. And yes, so ultimately, of course, it is Starmer's fault still. Sadly, I cannot see Starmer and McSweeney not trying to block Burnham, nor can I, in all honesty. Nor can I. But then that will just be chaos for Labour, where there'll be no good outcome. If you leave Burnham alone, there is a potential for this to work out. It's not certain. It could go still very badly wrong, but it could work out. Could work out for Starmer even. There is if they block it, and they might block it just because they're stunningly bad at politics, but If Burnham wins, should Starmer make him a cabinet minister to keep him inside the tent? Attlee did this to political rivals. It makes no difference. I mean, when there's a reshuffle, he might do, but it'll make no difference. Burnham won't feel that he has to... He won't be able to... The only thing it will do is, at the point at which Burnham decides, up until the point at which he decides to make his formal move, he won't be able to attack what Labour are doing because of ministerial responsibility. But at the same time, it will make no realistic distance to Starmer's prospects because Burnham intends to win that election, probably Marchish, maybe March it'll be the election. Wait a couple of months and then trigger a leadership challenge. Now, again, depends, doesn't it? If Starmer's demonstrating... it's a risk getting rid of Starmer because people will know that the geopolitical situation at the moment is really horrendous. And Starmer is a proven success in at least that area. Greg Bovino, commander of the Federal Border Patrol Agency, has just said that immigration officers tried to apprehend a person they were targeting for immigration enforcement, and at the time the officers were approached by a man with a gun. Yeah, unless they can prove it. Again, this is why they should wear body cameras, right? Like the police do. At this point, because we've got actual footage of them murdering a woman, actual footage, anything I says, a lot of people in America are not going to believe without proof. Good job, Frogface didn't get to speak to Dictator Trump, otherwise he'd be claiming the positive comments were down to his intervention. He could do that anyway, he could always claim he spoke to them, but at the end of the day, the way it's been reported is Starmer has a phone conversation with Trump. Straight after that conversation, Trump puts out the statement saying, yeah, British troops, they're boss, mate. So it is what it is. I just don't see that it's really a massive win for Starmer. I suppose it helps him push his credentials as someone who's influential. But really, the statement from Trump that's come out now only really it actually makes the people who'll be most relieved at it will be Kemi Badenoch and Nigel Farage. If Starmer blocks Burnham, will he have ended his career? I think he will have. He's already weak. His career is probably dead anyway. I don't know how many people think he'll still be Prime Minister at the end of the year, no matter what happens, quite frankly. But if Starmer blocks Burnham, he will just make it less likely he's going to be given another Christmas message from Downing Street, put it that way. In terms of the last video, I think Lucy Connolly's barred from stand-in. She was sentenced to more than 12 months in prison, although released after 10. If you've been sentenced to more than 12 months, you're ineligible. Oh, was she? Let me just double check that then. I didn't think she'd been in for long enough. I'm not sure. That's not in the list of things that disqualify you from standing as an MP. Where have you got that from? Let me have a look. I need to... Right, let me just look. I'll go to the legislation. We'll go right to the heart of it. Been repeatedly asked if Starmer may go up in the polls after the past week. The constant response is, I don't know. There aren't a lot of votes in foreign affairs. People, even when it gets really serious, you might, might get a bit more, but... Let's have a look. Okay. A person found guilty of one or more offences, whether before or after passing of this Act, and whether in the United Kingdom or elsewhere, and sentenced according to be imprisoned or detained indefinitely or for more than 1 year, shall be disqualified for membership of the House of Commons while detained anywhere in the British Islands or Republic of Ireland in pursuance of the sentence. So it seems to me that as long as you're not actually in prison at the time, you're fine. You say the legislation says senators don't think the fact she was released early changes. No, I'm not. I appreciate that, but what I'm saying is, it says here, it says shall be disqualified for membership of the House of Commons while detained anywhere in the British Isles or the Republic of Ireland in pursuance of the sentence or order or while unlawfully at large. So basically, it seems to me they're only disqualified whilst you're in prison. That as soon as you've done your sentence, you're fine. It would be very surprising if any parliament would bar someone from standing as an MP just for something as silly as being thrown into prison. I think Starmer's a very good organisation manager, i.e. puts in improving structures, but very poor people manager. He's just very poor politically. I don't know what his people skills are like. I've not really seen much comment on that. Yes, he does know how to be an organiser. He is a technocrat. He's a perfectly good technocrat. And you can do that. That's fine. You can have technocrats. But if you don't have the political instincts yourself, you must get someone who does. You absolutely must get someone who does. Surprised that Burnham would want to be PM right now, given the madness of King Trump's getting progressively worse. Not necessarily, no. Again, I mean, I don't know Andy Burnham. I don't know what he's thinking. It might just be self-serving. He might just see an opportunity and says, I fancy being PM, even if it's for a few years. And then you're in the money. You're in the money, even if you lose the next election. It obviously takes the shine off your earnings if you couldn't win an election as prime minister, as the leader, basically. You know, you won't sell tickets to your speeches or books for as much, but you can still make a lot of money as a former prime minister. You still make a lot of money. But I'm not saying it is from selfish point of view. He may just, I mean, it's fairly obvious. Labour need a new. At the moment, Starmer's not going to lead them to triumph in the next election. I can't see it. Because he's not getting any better. And he's not going to get any better because his team's not getting any better. There's no introspection in 10 Downing Street. It's just groupthink. It's just navel-gazing groupthink. It's not going to get better. Circumstances might boost Labour a bit. But again, I have to come back to the whatchamacallit. So it's Google AI says you can't stand even if suspended sentence. Yeah, but I'm literally reading it from the legislation. I'm not a lawyer, but it doesn't say here that you have to have. It doesn't say if you've got a conviction. It just says if you're in prison or at large. So in other words, if you've escaped prison, you can't stand. And if you're currently in prison, you can't stand. It doesn't say that if you've been in prison, you can't stand. Any chance that Burnham could lose the by-election? There is always a chance. Reform UK have been given a massive donation. It would be immensely hilarious to Reform UK if Andy Burnham didn't even win the by-election. So they will fight very hard for it. But in that, and I can only go by that September MRP poll, which is not the same as a constituency poll, but constituency polls aren't always as accurate as you might think. It looked reasonably safe, and Andy Burnham will get a premium because you will get various people voting for Andy Burnham. You'll get Labour people voting because they don't want to reform UK MP, right? But you'll also get Lib Dem and Green people voting because they'll think he'll be downing Starmer, right? They want to get rid of Starmer. You might even get some Conservatives vote for him because, again, his aim is to cause trouble for Starmer. So I think Andy Burnham, I would be 95% certain he would win. 94.5%, just to be clear. 94.5% certain he'll win, right? If he is allowed to stand. The problem is not him winning the by-election. The problem is all the damaging headlines that will occur from today right up until the point where Starmer eventually does fall. And that could be it could be months, it could be a year or so. It will never stop because they know that Andy Burnham is going to Parliament not to be a backbencher, not to be a cabinet minister. He's going there to be a political assassin. There will also be damage caused if Labour do not win that mayoral election. There will also be damage caused if they do win the mayoral election, but it costs so much money they couldn't afford to spend the resources they needed on other things as well. Hearing that the creation of a new forest and reservoirs has now indeed begun, bringing in thousands of jobs, Badger vaccine program's going well too. Yes, there's plenty of good things. There's even plenty of really big good things, but people don't know about them. And it endlessly frustrates me. Endlessly frustrates me. I wouldn't mind if people who hate Starmer hated him because of something he's actually done or not done. And there are people who have cause for that. But the vast majority of people are getting exactly what they expected to get with Starmer. He's not gone back on his word on these things. So... group thinks okay. Group thinks never okay. But those in the room need to lose the dissenting voices and take corrective action. No, The problem is there are no dissenting voices. That's the problem. They're not going to take corrective action because there's no one in their little clique telling them this is because we messed up. They're telling each other this is because of that. They're blaming everyone. They're blaming the media. They're blaming the civil service. They're blaming Labour MPs, backbench MPs, because they don't understand. They don't get it. They're fucking idiots. They're blaming everyone but themselves. Groupthink is never okay. It always leads to fortress mentality when things go wrong. It always leads to fortress mentality. Wouldn't Burnham losing that by-election be an extinction level event for Labour as a whole? It would be multiple bad for everyone. Yes, there's no silver lining to Burnham losing the. If Burnham stands as the candidate for that by-election, it doesn't help anyone. It certainly doesn't help Starmer if Burnham then loses it, right? Because in all honesty, I don't believe that Starmer is trying to hang on to his job for vanity purposes. I absolutely believe he genuinely thinks he's got this project in mind, this vision in mind, and there's good reason for this, that Andy Burnham cannot carry on the work, and that's probably true, by the way. I said this in Graham's stream yesterday. I may have even said it in my video, but I'm not sure I did. There's various other things to listen to as well, like Andy Burnham, for example. Just to be clear, Andy Burnham doesn't have a plan to lead this country. And that's not me saying that Andy Burnham's, not a serious politician. He can't have a plan to lead this country because national strategies take a long time and a lot of resources to formulate. And Andy Burnham doesn't have the resources, and he won't get the resources until he becomes Prime Minister, or unless he becomes Prime Minister. So what's he going to do? Right, he's got two options. He either going to put everything on hold? He's going to say, right, we're going to stop everything until I've developed a new national strategy, in which case the government do nothing for a year and a half or 2 years. That's not an option. So what's he going to do? He's going to all he can do is try to lead the current plan, but he doesn't know what the plan is in detail. He can read it, like I've read their strategies. Once they've been published, you can read them. And he can also read the ones that are in progress, which we haven't got yet. But he can't understand them because he hasn't been part of that years-long process. Like Angela Rayner, Ed Miliband, Wes Streeton, they were part of it. So they, in theory, could take over the horse, so to speak. Andy Burnham can't. All Andy Burnham can possibly do is exactly the same that Starmer was going to do, but with less understanding of the project, and apply a few tweaks here and there to stamp his mark on it. The best you can hope of Andy Burnham is that government will become less effective, because I think that's pretty much guaranteed, by the way. The government will actually be less effective. Things will fall by the wayside because he'll shake up ministers. Because again, he won't just keep ministers where they are. He'll have to change to his own. So he'll shake up ministers. So instantly loads of things get put on hold just because of the minister. Because ministers have to get up to speed with things now. Then they won't really know what he wants them to do. Because it's like, well, do you want us to do this thing that Starmer put in place? They won't know. So government will be slowed down. The actual effective work of government will just grind to a halt. But it is possible that if he's a politically sharper operator, that he can make Labour more popular, even though he'll be doing less good stuff. The madness of politics. But there is no outcome where Andy Burnham makes government better, at least not in the short term. I mean, if he can get to an election win, then in the next parliament, who knows? But in the here and now, he ain't got a plan. He can't have a plan. It's not possible. Are the Metro mayors back to AV or still first past the post? So they have been put back to transferable votes. I don't know when that comes into. It might already be in effect, in which case that could help with the if that's what you're thinking about the mayoral election. Yes, that could help. That is a good point. I know that they did change it, or have they changed it? I think they've changed it. But I don't know if it's in. It might be in effect. It might not. So that's a good point. So yeah, if it's as long as it's not first past the post, the Labour candidate still has a decent chance of winning. But remember, it's not just for Manchester; it's for Greater Manchester. There's a lot of Labour aren't guaranteed. Bernard should stand by the leader and support him. I mean, you shouldn't do anything. You have to be a little bit careful here. I don't say that politicians in a party should blindly back every single party line. You should just avoid doing or saying anything that causes reputational damage to the party. So there is a line to tread. If you're an elected politician of a party, there's a line to tread that allows you some license to call for a course correction, shall we say. If you think the party is going in the wrong direction on an issue, call for a course correction. That's fine. Sadiq Khan does that all the time. He does no damage to Labour nationally, but he does it. He does it in the right way. I think if a new Labour guy wins the Manchester mayoral election, that would really take the wind out of reform sails. Believe recent events made that entirely possible. It would, yes. I mean, there are ways this can work out, but at the same time, in politics, you never get much. You'd never gain very much by winning a seat you already held. Retaining an office, in this case, I don't know whether you'd call it a seat, but we'll call it a seat. Why not? They get a chair. The mayors get a chair. We'll call it a seat. So retaining a seat, you can crow about it all you like, but all you're doing is treading water. Lucy Powell seems to have been quite disciplined since becoming deputy leader. Yes, she has. I've breathed a bit of a sigh of relief on that one myself. I sort of thought she probably would. I just wasn't 100% certain. But she's so far been okay. Yeah. As okay as you can be. I mean, I will just say it is very difficult for people to, again, this is Starmer's fault. You make it more difficult to be disciplined if things are going wrong. I mean, imagine it in you often use fighting metaphors, don't you, in politics, because it's quite brutal. And a lot of things are very much the same. I would say Sun Tzu's Art of War is an essential text for politicians as well, right? But if you think about a battle scenario and you've got a regiment that needs to hold the line and it's got advancing troops coming towards it, those troops are much more likely to hold that line if they can see that in general the battle's going well for them and they've got confidence in their commander, their captain, right? Whereas if you can see that other battalions and around the battlefield are getting their arses kicked, and you have got absolutely no faith in your commanding officer, you are much more likely to be routed. And it's the same in politics. It's very, very difficult to be disciplined when things are going badly wrong and your leader doesn't seem to have a plan to turn it around. And Starmer is not giving the impression that if you think about, so Keir Starmer does acknowledge that things are going very badly for Labour. So what's his plan? Well, he thinks that as the good news starts to come online in 2026, like all the good stuff they've been putting in place, he thinks people will naturally think better of Labour. And it's like, okay, they might a bit. But Labour needs a massive bounce in the polls. Put it this way. Labour have only lost so many votes to Reform UK. They've lost a lot of them to the Green Party. They've lost a few to the Lib Dems as well, right? If in order for Labour to get themselves under a first past the post system into an election winning position by 2029, they haven't just got to take those votes back off Reform UK. And they haven't lost that many. Most of those votes came from the Conservatives. They've got to take them from the Green Party. So Labour have to think to themselves, how do we get those votes back off the Green Party? They probably don't have to worry about your party too much. I think a lot of the people who will vote your party, I think some probably voted Labour last time, but I think a lot of them would have voted Green Party last time anyway. or maybe even Reform UK. But Labour need a plan for how do they get those votes back off the Green Party. And sorry, it's not good enough to say, oh, well, we've put all this good work in, people will notice it. Well, what if they don't? They're not guaranteed to notice it. I mean, a lot of people are already better off than they were when Labour came to power. But if people still feel that the cost of living is unaffordable, and millions do, that it's a bit more affordable doesn't necessarily make it all right. And everyone else is promising to make it. Everyone else is, the Green Party, your party, I don't know what they're promising, but certainly the Green Party and Reform UK are promising to turn people's lives around for the better overnight. They've got different ideas about how to do it, but it's this quick fix, not just simple fix, quick fix. They're going to do it straight away. Right? How do Labour counter that? They've got no plan. Starmer's got no plan for that. Seems to me the best path forward is for Burnham to get his seat, assuming he wins, then be a good little backbench until Starmer announces that we're stepping down for the next election. Yeah, that's not an outcome that will happen. Unless, of course, see that the only way Burnham doesn't challenge Starmer is if Starmer somehow puts Labour in a stronger position in the next few months. If Labour have an absolute shit show in May in the elections, Burnham will trigger the leadership. He'll. I don't know how many allies he's got in the Parliamentary Labour Party, but I don't think he'd be going to all this trouble if he wasn't confident. So I think he must have, unless he's a fucking idiot, and I don't think he's an idiot, he must have checked that he's got the support in the Parliamentary Labour Party to trigger a confidence vote as soon as he needs it. So, yeah, there's no outcome where Burnham bides his time. I'm not saying he'll trigger it as soon as he's confirmed as an MP. He'll wait until after the elections, the May elections at least. And he will also gauge how much support he really has, because it doesn't do Burnham any good to jump the gun and it turns out that he hasn't quite got this, because he doesn't just need, remember that the steps Burnham needs, he's going to cause damage to Labour. That damage is going to be there even if everything sort of theoretically goes right, because the headlines will just be waiting for it. They'll be waiting and waiting. It'll be like the newspapers when Boris Johnson was clearly on his way out. They'll just be waiting and waiting and waiting. And every time and Labour won't be able to get any good news stories out. It'll be impossible, because every time there's something that in theory the news might report on that's a good thing, they'll just go with some latest rumours about Andy Burnham. Right? It's just piece of piss. Labour will have no chance and because they haven't got their own communication machine, they'll have no chance of getting their message out. I say they've not got their own communication machine. They have a very large communication machine, but they're not effective on social media. Don't make me go and check their social media feeds again. But there we go. Just can't understand what happened when they were excellent opposition after Hartlepool, but then completely bombed it. Something changed. I think, I can only speculate. It's pure speculation. I've never seen anyone really address it. But yes, from where they rejigged things after the Hartlepool by-election, and whatever they did worked really well. And it wasn't even just when they came to power. There was a good year, almost a year before the election, where they were at that point slipping a bit. Something changed. I think it's because Morgan McSweeney went from being like a campaign manager to a more of a political advisory role. If I was to guess, and it is a guess, I'm afraid, I don't really have enough information, but something changed halfway through 2023. Something noticeably changed. Reporting is that MPs are split on Burnham return. They will be. That doesn't matter to Burnham. He will have checked out. All he needs is to know that he'll go to Parliament. He won't trigger a leadership challenge until he's sure he's got the numbers. It doesn't do Burnham any good at all to trigger a leadership contest that Starmer wins, or like no confidence vote that Starmer wins, because that doesn't strengthen Starmer. It weakens him, but it also weakens Labour more generally. It doesn't help Burnham. Burnham will get really, if Burnham really has the best interest of the Labour Party at heart, he will recognise he's got one silver bullet in the chamber. That's what he's got. If you just say Burnham isn't an idiot, why would he go for the leadership if he doesn't have a plan? Because it's not possible to have a plan anyway. You simply can't. It's physically impossible to develop a national strategy quickly. He will just be supposing, I imagine, that Starmer is on for a loser at the moment because he's not playing the political game. That Burnham may even plan to largely leave the running of the national strategy. He may not even tinker with it. He may just go in thinking, I will just be better politically. But also in politics, you don't actually have to be a good government to win. You just have to persuade people you are. Right? You just have to persuade people you are. The Conservatives screwed people. Like Conservatives won partial victory in 2010. Then they came out with austerity, which is very unpopular. Then they won an outright majority in 2015. Didn't do any harm. You know, they just convinced people that they didn't convince people that they were good. They just convinced people that they were better than the alternative. The alternative at the time being presented as a coalition of Labour and the SNP. Right. Then in 2017, of course, they actually lost that majority again, but they still persuaded them that they were better than Labour. 2019, same thing. You know, they persuaded them that they had and that was Boris Johnson's pitch. I've actually got a plan. Jeremy Corbyn doesn't even have a plan. His plan, he says he's going to negotiate these things. Well, I've already got the plan. I've got the oven. What was it? The oven ready deal. That's what he sold himself on. I've got the oven ready deal. I'm ready to go. We don't have to wait. We don't have to wait years more for people to come out with another plan. I've got the plan. I'm ready to go. That is what wins. You just have to convince people you've got a plan. How can GB News be active in the US? Because they're mostly paid by foreign money anyway, aren't they? Do you know what? They've got as much business in the US as they have in the UK. Could see Burnham wanting quick wins, begins popular left-wing stuff like PR for easy wins. He can't do PR. It's not possible to implement PR at this point. You don't have enough. It's too complicated. You could implement transferable vote, but even then you'd have to get a move on. Transferable vote system, like an AV system, you could, because you could, by the end of this year, first of all, start talking it up. You could start talking about the problems with our electoral system. You could then say to the public, this is breaking down trust with politics. It's the sort of stuff that Labour were talking about internally a couple of years ago, and they should have carried on. Then what you could do is say, let's have a referendum, right? If you win the referendum, the legislation's ready to go. You don't have to do anything complicated. It's like, well, this is the system. This is what you're voting on. As soon as the referendum's won, legislation straight through Parliament. If the House of Lords tries to block it, no problem. You just wait for the end of that session of Parliament, start a new session of Parliament before the election, ram it through with the Parliament Act, job done, in place for the next election. If you were to introduce PR, first of all, there's like 100 different variations of PR you can have. It would require massive changes to the way people vote. So you're talking about it would take some time. It would take time. First of all, the referendum would be harder to win because people wouldn't really know what they're voting for. It's one of these things. Let's say you present a version of PR for the referendum. So then people do know what they're voting for, but some people will like it and some people won't. That's the problem with politics. If you talk about an outcome, the outcome in this case is your vote counts for more, then that sounds good. They'll vote for that. But as soon as you talk about the specific mechanism, that's when you lose people. So if you present to people the specific form of PR that you will propose, some people will be against it. You're less likely to win the referendum. if you don't propose a specific form, that means you need to then have some sort of citizens' assembly to decide what the form should be. And then people might think they're voting for a mystery box. It's all very messy. But even if you win it, you still have to then work on that process. And the Electoral Commission would have a lot of work to do on it. Whereas for AV, there's nothing. The ballot papers will be the same. There'll just be an extra thing on it. It says, indicate your preferences with a 1 in the box for your first preference, a 2 in the box for your second preference, a 3 in the box for your third preference. That's it. And as for, the rest of it's the same. So all of the infrastructure is the same. The way it's counted is largely the same. You still organise your counts, your ballots, but you do it according to the ones instead of ticks or crosses. And then you get the bottom place pile, and then you distribute the 2s, right? I mean, it's just and you don't have to talk about having different types of MP, like regional MP, top up. Your constituencies are the same. The ballot papers are mostly the same. The counting's mostly the same. So you could do AV. Not enough time to do PR. That's a much more complicated thing. People talk about trains now for some reason. Johnson lied about his withdrawal agreement twice that year to the British public about leaving the EU and to Carrie, who ended up pregnant. Yeah. But also, he did lie, but he still won. I mean, what is the lesson? Perception matters more than facts in politics. That's really all there is to it. Perception just matters more than facts. I've got a mug like that on the online store. A little plug, sneaky plug at the end there. On the merchandise store, but that is, I mean, that is why, and some people may think Andy Burnham, because Andy Burnham, they don't know he'll be a great prime minister. They don't even know he'll be a great political leader, but he'll probably be better than Starmer, which is not necessarily. Also, you might have others. It's not just Andy Burnham's allies, right? Think about this. Angela Rayner fancies a crack at it. Wes Streeting fancies a crack at it, right? At the very least. But they don't want to be seen as the assassins. So Angela Rayner and Wes Streeting's allies, they won't mind Andy Burnham coming in and being the assassin, because if he brings Starmer down, well, they get to join the contest as well. But it's not their fault there is a contest, right? Saying you'd have to pick 3, otherwise it's a spoiled ballot. No, you don't have to pick 3. You can pick 1 if you want. But there's no way of gaming the system by just picking 1. If you only pick 1, then... and also, if you just put a tick or a cross, you would just take that as you... And there's only 1 tick or cross in a box, you take that as a 1. That's fine, not a problem. You're just weakening your own vote. There's no way of gaming it. You don't help your candidate by not putting a 2 or a 3. If people think that, then they're... 100% don't know how it works. You never help yourself by not putting a 2 or a 3 in there. So yeah, if someone just put a 1 or just put a cross or a tick, just out of habit or whatever, you just count that as a 1, not a problem. It just means that if they end up in the bottom pile, then they'll just be chucked in the bin. Their vote gets chucked in the bin. Yeah, Chocky there saying, think you can just vote for first choice in transfer. Well, yeah, you can. You don't have to choose a 2 or a 3 if you don't want to. It's just that you're giving your vote more power if you do. It's really that simple. And that's what should be explained to people. But anyway, there it is. Run out of time on that one. I've got to now decide what are the most important topics to discuss tomorrow. There's still one video I've already recorded that was intended for days ago that I still haven't put up yet. I'll probably put it up as a 3rd video tomorrow. But thanks for coming on, everyone. Have a great rest of evening. And until next time, I'll see you later.